Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Warm welcome to all of you joining us today on our session on career self-awareness for enhancing career management. This session is in partnership with Dubai Knowledge Park and Dubai International Academic City. So welcome to all of you joining us from your homes, from your offices, from everywhere. My name is Hiba Abbasi, and I would like to welcome you all on behalf of the University of Manchester Middle East Center team. Just a few housekeeping rules. This session is going to be recorded for use later on, and you will be able to access it on all our social media platforms. Find the University of Manchester Middle East Center YouTube channel. It will be on our website, and we will be sharing the slides with you after the session. The first 45 minutes will be the presentation, but we will be taking your answers in the last 15 minutes. If you have a question meanwhile and during the presentation, you can type it in the chat box and we will take it. And even yet better, towards the end, you can unmute yourself and ask it straight away to Emma. So we're very delighted to have with us today our alumna, Emma Beesley. And a little bit about Emma. Emma is a chartered business psychologist who has led human resources teams in the region for the past 14 years. The majority of the roles have had a strategic focus where aligning people development strategy with overarching business objectives has been at the core. More recently, Emma has divided her focus between two main areas. Firstly, being part of the leadership team for a human resources tech company that is rapidly growing in the Middle East region. And secondly, supporting individuals in the capacity of a corporate and life coach. Emma's area of passion is to enable growth and development, whether at corporate or individual level. Emma holds an MBA from Alliance Manchester Business School, the University of Manchester. Emma, it's a pleasure to have you with us here today. We're delighted to start this session with you and with a very interesting topic, self-awareness for enhancing career management. And I always say self-awareness is the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, and it is, very, very important for every aspect of our life, whether it's professional, whether it's personal. Having self-awareness is key important. How is that? I know that you've been working with professionals, you're in the HR field. How do you find people, gaining self-awareness? Or do you find individuals understanding the importance of being self-aware for their career advancement, for their personal advancement? How do you find that? And, with your years of experience, why is it so important to be self-aware? And especially when you're thinking about your career, when you're thinking about advancing your career or going to the next level.
Okay, well, look, thank you for such a nice welcome. It sometimes seems a bit bizarre when someone reads out your profile. You're thinking, is that actually me? Okay, focusing in on the topic itself. So in answer to the first part of the question, I'm very passionate about the concept of self-awareness, primarily for the reason that I think a lot more can be done to support individuals in this area, and that support can then facilitate their advancements in their career. So my objective really for today is to go through some information that I hope will be helpful to those who have committed the next hour to being part of this, to spark some interest in you, and hope that you can start your own journey of improving self-awareness, if that's something that you figure by the end of this session you think is something that you may need. So I do have a strong connection with the University of Manchester. I completed the Global MBA in 2014, which seems like ages ago, to be honest. A lot's happened between then and now. I did have a very good experience there. It was a springboard in terms of projecting me forwards to where I am now. In a sense, a lot of the development that I've done started development in terms of my pursuing the self-awareness for others started when I really began my MBA. It was a critical point in time, and then has just continued up to now in terms of really the MBA pushing me personally out of my comfort zone, and then researching a bit more around, okay, I think there can be more for me professionally to support others as well in this. So I won't dwell on that bit. I will just move on to the next slide, which I think is valuable. If I click, hopefully it's going to go forwards. Okay, so I will do this for anybody that I train with or present to. I think it's important that you know who I am. Who is Emma Beesley? You've just seen who I am in a professional sense, but who really am I? I'm going to expose a little bit about myself, which in a way sort of positions my views and opinions of a lot of the work done around self-awareness as well. So I've put some pictures in which represent me and my life, primarily, you know, and me doing some action adventure with my husband, me doing activities that I like, 5 children, of which 3 are biologically mine and 2 are my stepchildren. I'll let you guess which are which. And then me participating in a race in Ras Al Khaimah with my husband. What I've also done, just some pictures, people like pictures, but put here, what are my fears? So my biggest fear is probably speaking in public. It's something that I've worked through a lot in the past 10 years. I'm scared of heights and swimming in open water. So I sort of try and tackle these things head on. Do I enjoy it? I enjoy it when it's finished and I feel a sense of achievement that I've done it. My passions are supporting others. I get a lot of satisfaction from being able to help others in a variety of different capacities, really. Being an inspiration to my children, I feel that I gained a lot from my parents, and my aim is to do the same. Running, hiking, horse riding being the activities that I enjoy doing. My current development points. So I have somebody to sort of help guide me as I go along. And I have ongoing areas that I wish to develop, of which I've listed there. They're all based on either things that I feel I need to develop or things that others have given me feedback on, just focusing in on the listening actively. So whenever I've been part of a 360 or some kind of review, I've often been told, you know, you interrupt too much, you don't intensely sort of listen to what's actually being said. I've been videoed doing this, and this is something which I'm personally working through myself. I hope this just gives you a bit of a brief around who I am and then where I'm coming from as we move forwards. Okay, so focus areas for today. Again, this is such a complex and deep topic, okay, with lots of twists and turns. I'm not going to throw lots of theory at you. I want to give you value, and I want you to decide if there's a pathway that you can follow after this that will help. So my specific interest came about 10 years ago. I was having to apply a lot of theory to the design and development of a career framework in the organization that I was in. So I spent a lot of time digging a bit deeper to understand more around this topic. My functional expertise is around psychometrics. So I spent a lot of time designing them, having them done, you name it, I've probably done it. And this is valuable for me now because I use it a lot in the work that I do with organizations, with individuals. But what interested me the most is there was one professor, and this was when I was back in a psychological study, and he said something which sort of gave me a bit of a fixation on the self-awareness concept. Can I just say, it's really nice to be able to present something on something I feel so passionate about. It's the first time I've actually had the opportunity to do it, and it's great. And he said to me, to the group, he said, your personality is a given. Okay, yes, influenced by your upbringing and the experiences that you have, but you don't have a proactive choice around what your personality is. What you do have a choice around is how you behave and how you act. In practice, this is not easy. I appreciate that. And there are situations where that's perhaps not the case if it was a strong emotional response to something, but predominantly you do have a choice around how you behave and how you act. Therefore, we get to decide how we project ourselves as human beings and the decisions we make, whether that's career related or professionally related. So I have gone through a journey where I've done a lot of work around that myself, and I've now started to support others, really. I'm a visual learner. I've been in lots of webinars where there's been a lot of text, and I haven't sort of done that with this. I've put more pictures, quotes, things that can get you thinking, and I'll talk around that rather than just put the text up. Okay, so focus areas, just to go into this for today, is mainly around understanding, reviewing, and then the third section, improving. And I've just put this picture here to represent, I've asked a few people what it represents to them. What it represents to me is that the kitten is looking at himself and seeing something else that he actually isn't, which is just, and then if you look at it from as well from the lion's perspective, if the lion was looking back at the kitten, you know, he's seeing a kitten, but the kitten doesn't believe that that's what he is. And I find that a really interesting concept. So that was just thought-provoking picture to start. So just moving into the first phase, which is understanding. Now, the only thing I know about each of you that are listening in is that you are connected to the University of Manchester. I don't know your starting point in terms of what you know about self-awareness. So some aspects might be a refresher, or this might be a slightly different take on how you've learned things in the past. Now, there's a lot of literature, both qualitative and quantitative, a lot of in-depth, and when I'm giving you facts, this is all based around the literature that exists. So this is going to stay quite high level, but impactful. I don't want to overload you. And if you want more information, then I'm happy to share that after the session. I'm sure Hibba can give my information there as we go through. Okay, to start, some definitions. I won't read the definitions out. I will just point out that although the definitions read differently, the common theme between them is that they are all, self-awareness is reflecting the ability to pay attention to yourself, recognition of yourself. Okay. Just to go a little bit deeper. So it's sort of talking you through a bit of a journey. Try and relate this to yourself. You may feel pride or dissatisfaction depending on how well your behavior matches up with your standards of correctness. So if your behavior is aligned, you're likely to feel pride. And if it's not, you may well feel dissatisfaction. If you are dissatisfied, this is when you might make changes to your behavior to better align with your standards. So something will initiate, your feeling of dissatisfaction will initiate to change your behavior. I've given an example here. You might have feelings of discontent in your current job. You recognize that you're someone who values creativity, but in your role, you don't have the opportunity to exercise this passion. So this might lead you to pursue other creative outlets, changing your behavior to fit your standards. Now, this kind of sounds a bit simplistic in many ways, because I know that a lot of people that feel discontent don't often know the best route to take. But essentially, the more you develop your self-awareness, the easier it will then be to navigate the situation, to move towards something which is going to be more fitting to your standards and make you feel more comfortable. And you know, if that's where you're working or what you're doing, then it's highly relevant. So just to start, I say to start on the more depth of understanding, I put a quote here: "Be fearlessly authentic." Now, the word authentic, I'm making an assumption that people have said something to you at some point in your life, like be true to yourself, just be authentic. They both those statements really have the common assumption that we know who our true self is. Because if we didn't, then we wouldn't know how to be that. But a question to you, just to have a think about before I show you, what percentage of people do you think that they are actually self-aware? So what percentage of people think they are self-aware? Just have a little think.
If I may say.
Okay, sure. What do you think, Hiba?
I think about only 40% are self-aware.
what percentage do you think that think that they are self-aware? Not actually are, but think they are.
Think they are, I would say 20 to 25%, not more.
Okay. Well, it's actually 95% of people, and I cross-checked this figure with a lot of research that had been done. 95% of people think that they are self-aware. So, you know, they'll go, say, yes, well, I know myself, you know, I know all my drivers, I know, as we'll go in, you'll see what they know. But what percentage of people do you think are actually self-aware? So what did you say, 25%?
20 to 25 maximum.
Okay, only about 10 to 15.
10 to 15. I think people are agreeing with us, Emma, here. Most people think they are self-aware.
Okay, no, that's good. I can't see the box, by the way, guys. So anything, I've just kept it my screen in the video. So okay, reality, only 10 to 15 of us think actually aware. Now, I find this absolutely fascinating, given how important it is to be self-awareness, to be self-aware for individuals. I think, wow, if this is the sort of reality out there, a lot of people are just walking around and they think that they know who they are and they don't. That's pretty fundamental, and I find it absolutely fascinating. But the good news is that there can be improvements made to this. Okay, so this is where a bit of theory coming your way. Emotional intelligence. So maybe some of you have attended something on emotional intelligence or done an assessment of emotional intelligence or been sold something that's going to improve your emotional intelligence, because this is the thing that's been publicized a lot. Now, my view on this is that it's jumped to emotional intelligence as a concept without actually addressing the components of emotional intelligence, of which self-awareness is the first sort of foundation component. So I'll talk you through this. We've got emotional intelligence consisting of 4 domains, and we've got a definition of emotional intelligence. Okay, so you can read through this, but essentially the ability to understand, use, and manage your emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate, empathize, overcome challenges. So okay, sorry. So okay, moving on from there. This is developed by Daniel Goleman, who is a psychologist and has studied emotional intelligence, the ins and outs, ups and downs of this. But if you can see in the top left box where I've put the arrows, self-awareness here is the starting point. So you can't even start to sort of use the concept of emotional intelligence until you have begun a journey of developing your own self-awareness, because it's the combination of all these 4 quadrants that you see here that is essentially emotional intelligence. So self-awareness is the starting point. So I've often wondered, you know, why is it just skipped to emotional intelligence? I understand it breaks down into 4 separate areas, but this to me is the starting point for any individual that is looking inwardly and has decided to look at themselves, whether that be for career development or personal development. This is the starting point. So self-awareness is broken down into 2 separate areas in the majority of models. You've got internal and external. And I really like this explanation because it makes it very clear to me. I don't want to overcomplicate anything. I like to keep things simple. So we've got internal self-awareness, which is an understanding inwardly of your values, passions, aspirations. So what are your core desires? And this is what you come to know. External self-awareness is about understanding how other people see you. So that picture just to the side, that just shows you in a picture form what that means. On the left, you've got the internal, and on the right, you've got the external. Okay, so an accurate view of both of these would then, in theory, lead to overall high self-awareness. Sounds easy. So questions I've put here, just to get you to think a bit more deeply around this. I'm just conscious, I'm not, I don't want to rush through too much, but internal and external. So if we look at the internal side, through some of the questions, how well do you understand your own values and motivators? Ask these questions to yourself while you're listening in. Do you know what you're really striving for? Do you pay attention to how you react to certain situations? And how closely do you look at your impact on other people? Now, I mean, I know when I look through these things, I think often if it's something that requiring time, like the fourth, how closely do you look at your impact on other people? Not enough, because it's just not the main focus. We're all so busy to even have a think about this. So part of what I want to get across to you all today is actually the value of asking yourself questions such as these, so that you can actually reconnect with yourself. And this is a great point in time to do so, especially if you are part of, a group that's perhaps studying or looking at different change. There isn't a better time. But just moving over to the other side, external, becomes a little bit more tricky, I suppose, because now you're looking at what other people's views are. So if people around you had to guess what your values and ambitions are, do you think that they would guess correctly? Have you looked at other people's opinions on the way you react to things? So have you actually reached out and asked people what they think, or for their feedback? And do you know how other people feel about your impact on their lives? And as you'll see, a lot of this is by openly requesting, kind of exposing that you want to have that feedback because you want to improve your understanding in that area. And we'll address that when we go through how you can actually review yourself against the internal and external self-awareness. Okay, so we've got here a grid of which is developed by Dr. Tasha, who has written a really good book that I would recommend. You don't have to read it all, but just to read sections from it. It'll provide you some really good insight into this. She's taken the concept of internal and external self-awareness and put it onto a grid where you can see that you can position people on here who are perhaps high in one, low in the other, high in both, low in both, and then provided a bit of a description around what that person would seem like. So just spend a bit of time having a look, because you might well have in mind, or you might already know where you would be positioned here and be able to relate to that, or you might know others. So I just put here, where do you predict you might currently be positioned? And does this model make sense to you? I mean, I just put that there because there are a variety of different models, and I like this particular one because I can't think of anything else that I would add to this. I know that, when I've gone through the assessments, I've always ended up having initially low internal self-awareness and high external self-awareness. So I was in the category of a pleaser, focused on appearing a certain way to others, could be overlooking what matters to me, to make choices that aren't necessarily for my own success and fulfillment, more looking at others' success, others' positive opinion, I guess. And this is something that I know from having done a variety of different assessments. So I was obviously looking to move into more of aware. I'd hope now I would have progressed a little bit more into the aware. Okay, now you'll be surprised or not about how difficult a concept it can be to sell to some professionals in a corporate environment. So I've been asked to go into businesses to coach individuals, whether it's through an organizational change, or through a change of role. And I will use this. This is my methodology. I will use this as the starting point because I believe in the value that it has. But I've often found I've had to sell the benefits of improvement. And it has been a challenge, but I like that kind of challenge. So what I've put here, now this is just a summary, okay? You've got 8 things here that I see as the real true value when it comes to your career, of things that can improve if you focused and spent some time on improving your own self-awareness. So all of these things, I don't think you could argue really that any of these things are not valuable to improve. You may be fantastic at a few, you might be great at all, but there's always room for improvement. And then combination of all of these just gives you a better overall perspective, of which can do you wonders, and the business that you work for and the people that you work with. Okay, so section number 2, where we're going into reviewing. I hope I've sort of given you a bit of a snapshot so you understand the context of self-awareness, and also that you see the value of self-awareness in your own career development. So this takes us on to really an important phase of how do we actually figure out how self-aware we are. I'm sure you all have that in your mind at the moment. Okay, it's a great concept, but now, well, what would I actually do with this information? We could well be someone that thinks we have a high level of self-awareness, but we don't, or we could be somebody who already has a high level of self-awareness, or we could be self-aware in many ways, but not in others. So when we look at the actual reviewing process, I would recommend a consolidated approach to this. And this is my, okay, all right, I put in this before I got onto the reviewing, just because I really like it. So we've got it's like a meme here. She said, oh, you don't have any weaknesses. Excellent, because we really only like to hire people with no self-awareness. I don't know if that's a bit of my like sarcastic British humor or something, I don't know, but I like that. So just to put a bit of an explanation around this. So she's obviously interviewing someone in the interview is claiming that they have got no weaknesses. That key question, could you describe any weaknesses that you have or any development points? And this person didn't have any. Perhaps they believe that, perhaps they don't. The individual maybe believes they really can't develop because they've got everything that would be needed, or maybe they're just saying it because they think it's the right thing to say. So it's very complex in terms of recruitment to recruit for, if you're looking to recruit for highly self-aware people, it's because of the complexity, it's quite a challenge. But I just wanted to point out the quote is highly unlikely. I suppose that's why it's so humorous. I just put this back in just because I just want to reframe you all, but sort of reframe this, bring you back to what we're talking about here, recognizing your own state, consciously knowing, monitoring your own thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Now, when I've worked with, I'm happy to put all these up together. When I've worked with, what I was saying on the with people in and out of businesses, there have been some concerns when we've wanted to focus on self-awareness. I've listed these concerns here. So getting to know yourself being boring or uninteresting. Some people have mentioned that. Bringing things up that you don't want to deal with. You know, a lot of people, it's sort of like if there's things that you need to work back, then they'd rather not, because things are all right, things are fine, we'll just keep going. Taking the time out to get to know yourself is selfish. That comes up a lot in relation to, you know, there's so much else to do in life, as I'm sure you all know. Why, you know, what's the value of you spending time to try and get to know yourself? Because it's time consuming, is in the last point, when you're already busy enough. But you know, I would always stress here with them, you just need to slow down. This is the whole purpose of this. Slow down, regain focus on what's important and who you are, and commit time to this, as this will give you a more content career moving forwards, and that will overlap into your personal life too. And you know, that I guess I don't have to sell that bit. That would be proof in itself. So on the reviewing component, we've got, I'll bring it all up on the internal side. So there is a tool to use. There's the tool that I do use as a first step gauge of understanding self-awareness, and I will share this with you after the session. And it comes from the lady that I was talking about before, Dr. Tasha, and this gives you such good insight into your current state of self-awareness, and you may well be very surprised about the response that you get. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes, but it's good. It's not a psychometric, okay? It's looking at the different facets of self-awareness, and it's giving you a score based on those. Personality assessments, I'm not just saying this because that's my sort of bread and butter, but there is so much value to be gained from having the opportunity to do an assessment that's focused around development, and then getting a proper feedback session done as part of this as well. Because this can expose things that you would never have even thought about before. And there is one that's very good for career development, actually, of which it's focusing on a lot of this. I mean, it's more tailored towards the traits that are going to be required within specific organizations, specific roles within organizations. External, it's more around, you'll be familiar with 360. I mean, my views on a 360, it needs to have an actual purpose. I've worked and proactively tried to make changes in businesses that just do a 360. I'm not a believer that doing a 360 just to do a 360 makes any sense at all and is good for a business, and especially the individuals involved in that process. But if it's a well-designed process, then it can give you a lot of insight and a lot of value. And you could even do this yourself. You could create a 360 where you are looking for the opportunity for people that know you to give you feedback on specific areas that you really need to know about. And this could be in work and in a personal sense as well. I think my family are pretty sick of the fact that I do things like that, and they think it's you know, I just want to say, how did I deal with that situation? Did I this? Because otherwise they won't just tell me, and I do want to know whether I like what I hear all the time or not. I do want to know. Feedback from colleagues is not always the easiest to take if you're not used to receiving feedback. But I think if I could get one point across here that you remember, it would be to make if you don't already, to make an immediate transition into showing other people that you want their feedback, that you want to know what they think of how you behave or respond in different situations, because it's more impactful than you think. So just in the quote bubble, just give an example of something that you could say. So I just really want to understand how I came across in meetings or in a specific meeting. I've been told before that I tend to not listen to others' views. What do you think? Okay, this one was a bit personal to me because it is something that I have been told. And initially it was difficult to digest because I just assumed I listened. I thought I listened, but it wasn't so. Okay, so I'm going to go with the assumption that by now you see the value of understanding and improving self-awareness for your professional development. You might be in a position at the moment where you're not quite sure where you're going to go from here, or you might be completely sure you know where you're going to go from here, but there may be obstacles in the way. When you're busy with work, life, trying to get balance, you know, difficult people at work, health, all of it, it's very difficult to take the time out to stop and reflect. I find it an ongoing challenge. I'm always last on the list of what comes with, you know, needing to reflect because of everything else that has to come first. But I proactively make the effort because I value the importance of it. So I I'm going to share with you a few questions just for you to just have a think about now. And anything that's on here, Hibba will share with you. Okay, I'll share this presentation. So if there's anything you want to reflect back on, you can do. Just have a little think. What are my energizers and my drainers? And this could be from any phase of your life, really. But I think you'll come up with quite a list of things that actually drain you, that day to day you don't think about, but they are things that maybe you could start controlling, perhaps. And then things that energize you that maybe you don't do enough of, or people that energize you that you don't spend enough time with. But if you don't know what these are, your mind is busy. I know that for all of you, your minds will be so busy right now, full of deadlines and different things and being pulled in all different directions, that if you don't engage with these things, you're not just going to think them up one day. It's got to be something that you sit down and just do by yourself. Do I love all that I am good at? This is an interesting one, because it assumes really that you're doing things that you're good at, but actually you're not getting any pleasure from doing them. You're just doing them because you seem to be doing a good job. So that's an interesting question to give you that bit of depth of thought. Does the culture of my workplace suit me? Now, I didn't know whether to put this in. The word culture, it's just so vast. Again, another fascinating topic. And you might think, well, no, it doesn't, but there's not many other opportunities at the moment, and where can I go? But it's something really worth thinking about. Businesses are making, a lot of positive steps to promote a positive culture, that they're seeing the value of attracting and retaining good professionals, in not by just how much they're going to pay, but actually providing a place where people really want to be and they feel part of. And it is so important. I mean, I don't think that requires any more explanation, because I'm sure you all share that view. So just a few key questions there, just have a little think about, and to reflect on, and see if if you need to do a bit of rework. So the next section I've put, do you have any inhibitors to career growth? So I've used examples here of ones that have come up in the past with clients, or with people that I've been working with within an organization as well. So things that might be stopping your career from moving forwards: external conflict. So what I mean by this is that people in your life, important people, may not approve of perhaps you spending time on study now. I definitely had a big conflict. I had a small baby at the time, and I would often get people judging me spending time away to do something, but I was doing it because I needed to do it, but it made it harder to actually give it what it needed. That might give you self-doubt if people that you need to support you aren't supporting you, and make things a bit more complicated. Commitment anxiety. So this really stems from people that I've worked with feeling anxious about making a decision and then going with that decision because it's moving them outside of a comfort zone. You might, think that it's going to affect you negatively in the short term, or you might be unsure about where it's going to take you in the long term, or many different things. But it's sort of moving away from what you're comfortable with, in essence. Okay, and then decision making confusion. So you might have a crossroads now where you need to decide: am I going to stay within the same profession that I'm in? Am I going to try and move somewhere else? What impact is this going to have? And a lot of this sort of procrastination can lead to more stress and actually limit the potential for you to move forwards. Now, an improvement in self-awareness would help with all of these aspects, because you'll be able to manage them more effectively and actually see beyond them, that what's important is that you're doing what's fitting for you and who you are. So moving on to learning and improving, which I'm just having a time check, I'm just not talking too much. Okay, so learning and improving is the third and final section. So we're at a point now where you have bought into what I've said, you see the value, you see how you can understand where you are, but now what do you do? You've decided you're going to commit to this, but what do you actually need to do? There's a word, vulnerable, of which is the first key step in this process. And it's something of which people tend to shy away from. So a quote, you say I like quotes because I think quotes speak many, many words. So everybody really is a mix of shines and flaws, you know, really good points and things which may hinder them. But essentially, the process of improving your self-awareness is about being compassionate with yourself as you are and building on that, not trying to rebuild yourself in order to be something different. Now, this is a good point that I can use some examples from work that I've done with individuals. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to change. There's nothing, I'm okay. I don't want, you can't, you know, why would I want to change who I am? Nobody should want to change who they are. They just need to be behaving in a way that's true with who they are. And that means you have to know who that person is first. So it's taking it right back. And then learning about that person and then taking it forwards from there, just to make sure that you're being the best that you can be. So once it's explained in that kind of way, very good uptake from, you know, wide variety of people who need to just see that a process of development is not to develop you into somebody else or something else, or it's about just developing you and bringing out all the good qualities in you. So people who are actively vulnerable, and this comes from the percentage of people who are considered to be high self-awareness. So give themselves permission to be themselves. Just read that and just try and understand exactly what that means. So actually allow yourself to be yourself. It sounds basic, but a lot of people don't do that. Fully embrace feelings and appropriate action despite their emotional flaws. So you might try and cover up things, but why? Because that's who you are. That's a form of self-expression. Stop worrying about what others think. I don't know if maybe this comes with age or something. I've talked to a few people about this. You know, when you're a teenager and you care so much, maybe even into your 20s. I don't think it does. I think it's something which, if you really think, you know, what does it matter? What does it really matter what other people think? If you're being true to yourself and you're doing what you believe is the right thing, and if that's in a career capacity and you're doing what you know is right for you, then it doesn't matter. I think you have more fun as well when you stop worrying about what others think, because you'll try more and you'll do more. Expose yourself to new experiences, which sort of stems on from, if you're not worrying what others are thinking, then you're more likely to try new things. Learn, grow, and shift your mindset to keep moving. So the practical truth really of life and living is that we are all vulnerable, but many of us try and hide those imperfections. And that's actually probably more stressful than not. So I just want to stress the importance here. You've got to be compassionate with yourself. You're not trying to create somebody else. It's just, if you think of these key points and believe that they will help you to raise your own level of self-awareness and make you feel a lot more comfortable with decisions that you're making, then that's a really good start. Self-compassion. Okay, just want to say that one. So self-awareness and your career. So when I was putting this together, I got to the point, I wanted to bring it back to career. This is the focus. This is what you all want to hear. But by default, really, if you do everything that's been there, this is going to help you with any decisions you make, and career may well be at the forefront of any decisions that you're going to make here. But I liked this. I found this really nice. So this is a scenario. Imagine yourself as a sales professional, and the product that you've been asked to sell is you. Arguably, you won't be able to identify a target market unless you are clear on what the product you're trying to sell actually does and can convincingly demonstrate its worth. So therefore, by making self-awareness a priority, you give yourself value and a clear identity, both of which can be used to create your own USP and personal brand. So in a nutshell, you are you, and only you can make that process work of just understanding exactly who you are, and then where you might best be suited to go to work, to add value. It's not just all about, I suppose, what you can give, but what kind of company is going to be then attracted to what you can provide. Real life scenario. Okay, so the client had a 360. I've just done these just to give you a bit of example of some development areas and how this has worked. A client had a 360 feedback from her team and family, of which indicated frequent tense moments. That was the feedback that she got. So on reflection, she realizes that she does tend to overreact, creating her own stress and giving stress to others as well. So we're looking here at, these are two of the areas taken from the benefits: self-control and your ability to change habits. Again, a picture. So you've got three different people responding to a situation in different ways. So from this summary, she's where the guy is on the left. I'm still angry at this red light. Making a transition, hopefully, through to that guy behind me seems to have a nice time. And then the one at the back is just saying, I'm enjoying the music. It's a mindset. And this particular client had a lot of things going on at this point in time and was very responsive due to stress. So it was a process that she needed to go through to refocus her energy on what do I need to improve here that is going to help improve my interactions with others, because this is not going to fly. She's going to get herself into a lot of bother in the workplace for sure. And this is not someone that other people really are going to want to work with or trust if she's just going to fly off the handle. So real life scenario number one. Real life scenario number two. Client feedback was that they would often interrupt others and appeared not to process what was being said. So the transition to active listening was the focus. This is actually me. Ability to change habits is something that this is an ongoing thing for me to work on, and listening. So the person that I work with, they gave me this interesting thing. So what I've been doing is I've been hearing, not listening. Anybody can hear. If you're there, you're hearing. In a business, in a meeting, I'm hearing, but perhaps I'm not fully listening. It's a different skill set required, and something that proactively I have to be attentive to, pay attention to, ask people for feedback on how I'm progressing, be observed, be videoed, watch myself in some situations. So this is just another demonstration of an improvement area to improve self-awareness. So just moving on, not many left now, I think 2 slides. Just a few things that came to my mind, really. So whatever your starting point is, you can improve. Even if after you've all sat here for 45 minutes, you thought, yeah, well, I just don't really see any problem really in this area. Chances are you're probably not very self-aware then, just to put it bluntly, but there has to be ways that people can improve. And there's no one perfect person. Even if your starting point is up here, you can improve. And if you are, maybe you can help other people to improve. And improvement is, I think, where we all want to go, because we value the importance of that in the career sense. So whether it is learning about yourself for professional or learning for behavioral improvement or learning for both or anything else, it's a benefit. Coach, look, I don't think a coach is necessary in all circumstances. I think it's helpful to kickstart a process and then have check-ins, was what I did. I did 10 years ago, I started personally having a process of that sort and engaged with somebody who then I have check-ins. That's how I manage my own improvement. Ideally, professional, personal overlaps, unless you're representing someone at home who is a completely different person that you represent in the workplace, which it's not, you know, that's not the way to go really, because we're just looking for one person that we know really well, and that's yourself. And now is a good time as any to start with that process. So just some final points from me. Making mistakes is something of which is perfectly normal. Being self-aware, as it says here, it's not the absence, but the ability to learn and correct them. So you're not looking to be a person of perfection. Because if you're doing that, then you're probably behaving in ways that you're just trying to seek perfection, not really being true to yourself and authentic. Taking responsibility, avoid doing the same kind of thing again. And a last little quote that I've just put there is, you can know you better than anyone else knows you. I think that's fairly self-explanatory, but I think by listening to everything that I've gone through in this presentation, I think you probably sense my enthusiasm about it. Once I get stuck into it, perhaps I get too carried away. I don't know. Hibba will maybe tell me or not if I did. But
no, you're doing well. Just keep going.
The crux of it is, and this is where I really do get a lot of satisfaction from, if you can just leave this session and think, okay, yeah, perhaps I don't spend enough time really thinking about who I am and how I can help myself. You might well be pleasers that are just doing things for other people at the moment, or you might be someone who's just run busy all the time, or you might be someone who's never really learned how to reflect, because it is a thing that you have to learn. You start off, you've probably all gone through a busy time since you've left school, moved through education, moved to jobs, boom, 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 it's all go. It doesn't stop. Then maybe you have a family, and then something happens, and you buy a house, and then, you know, someone passes away, and you've got all stresses going like this, that you don't actually get to then sort of touch base with yourself. And I think the critical point in time for me with this, it was really when I started the study with on the MBA, which would have been 2011. That positions it 10 years ago. I realized, if I'm doing this for a reason, I'm doing this because I want to do an MBA. Yes, I do, because I want to expand my knowledge of other areas of business. That was my driver. But then I thought I can get a lot more from this as well if I proactively manage where this goes, because I'm going to get the MBA. But then what am I going to do? What's going to happen after then? What do I actually want to happen? I couldn't actually answer all those questions when I started. And that's probably what initiated me to get into this. And I was lucky because I'd learned this all theoretically, but now I've got to a point where I can help other people from a context of help them to plan their way. That's brilliant. That's sort of where I'm really happy to be. So I'm pretty much done talking of what I'd prepared to talk.